All right, North Korea can now attach miniaturized nuclear warheads to their missiles, and yesterday they threatened to attack Guam, a sovereign U.S. territory. Defense Secretary James Mattis put out a stern statement today which said, quote, "The DPRK should cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of its regime and the destruction of its people. The DPRK's regime actions will continue to be grossly overmatched by ours and would lose any arms race or conflict it initiates." This is Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said today that Americans shouldn't worry. And of course, we can all sleep well at night. Doesn't really feel like it. Gordon Chang is here. He's the author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, and a columnist at the Daily Beast. Welcome back, Gordon.
Thanks, Kennedy.
So let's talk a little bit about this. There have been quite a few developments over the last couple days. What concerns you the most here?
Well, I'm concerned about Secretary Tillerson walking back President Trump's comments, because I think that there was some purpose behind what Trump did. There were two things. First of all, there was a message to North Korea to reinforce this whole notion of deterrence.
Yeah.
We got to do that, because when Kim Jong-un gets confident about his arsenal, he's going to blackmail us with his nukes. He's going to try to break the treaty between Washington and Seoul, get our troops off the peninsula, and then destroy the South Korean state, because that's a long-held goal of the Kim regime. That's at the core of the legitimacy of the Kim family. But the second message, and this was even more important, was to China, because Trump has lost patience with the Chinese. And what he was saying was essentially, there's going to be a war on your doorstep if you don't rein in your North Korean friends. And by the way, the tweet today where President Trump said, "We're the strongest nation in the world forever," that wasn't directed at North Korea. That was directed at a country that thinks it's a peer competitor to the U.S., that they think they're going to push us aside, that we're in terminal decline. That's not North Korea. That's China.
Yeah, and Sebastian Gorka, he sort of echoed that, saying the U.S. is no longer a superpower. The U.S. is a hyperpower. And obviously, you know, there has to be some messaging to China here. My question is, with this sanctions vote, the unanimous vote, what did the U.S. do right in terms of China to get them on board, where in the past they have blocked those sanctions?
Well, we put pressure on Beijing to get them there, but we gave up a lot. So, for instance, we postponed the Section 301 trade investigation on China's intellectual property abuses, and we've done some other things that postpone them into the future, which we shouldn't have done. You know, what we did was we lopped off $1 billion out of $3 billion of legal export income, but as Ambassador Haley said, look, the North Koreans use all of their export income, not for their people, but for their weapons programs. So we're leaving them with $2 billion for missiles and nukes. And by the way, what Haley was talking about does not include what Iran pays North Korea for their illicit cooperation. And that's somewhere between $2 and $3 billion a year. So, you know, when you go to the dentist, he doesn't take out just a little bit of cavity. I mean, he just goes for everything. And that's what the United States should do. We should give them everything we got all at once. Then we can starve the regime, and then they'll realize they have no choice but to disarm.
When you say give them everything all at once, do you mean militarily?
No, I mean cutting off all of their funding. You know, just taking a little bit of their funding, which is what we did with the UN security vote on Saturday.
So you're saying we should go through places like Pakistan and Iran, where North Korea is still getting technology and funding, and that's what's propping up this military regime that's starving its own people.
And also, we should go after all of the banks that have been laundering money for the North Koreans. And a lot of those are the biggest Chinese banks. We haven't touched those banks. We went after a small one on June 29th, Bank of Dandong, because it was money laundering. But the largest Chinese banks have been doing the same thing, and they're untouched. And that's a very bad signal, because that means we're saying to the Chinese, oh, you know, we don't really care that much about North Korea, despite what we say, because we're not going to exercise any political will and do what's absolutely necessary. And when the history of this period is written, they're not going to talk about North Korea. They're not going to talk about China. They're going to say that American leaders who had all of these tools, all of these instruments of national power over the course of decades refused to protect the American people. This is Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, bipartisan failure over the course of decades.
Do you think it ends in a nuclear war?
I think it ends in brinkmanship, because you talk to people in Washington and they're saying, look, everyone's going to go to the brink and then they're going to fashion a solution. Well, that's probably right, but that's not the way to do it.
It's also kind of scary, because I think North Korea has a different version of what the brink is. Time will tell. Gordon Chang, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kennedy.
Great to see you.